All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, public present, everyone watching at home. I'd like to welcome everyone to the March 25th business meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees. Call the meeting to order. Let's make it 7:38. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here we have the entire board present. We have an agenda tonight and getting ready to wrap up this fiscal year, begin the next one. With that, asking for additions or deletions to tonight's agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Are we going to add this?
To the consent.
It'd be adding item number 7 to the consent agenda, which is approval for the finance director and accounts payable department to prepare payments through April 1st, 2019.
Second.
And also to authorize the clerk and the treasurer to issue payments to the end of the fiscal year.
Second again.
Okay, so I will give a move by the treasurer and seconded by clerk to add that to as consent agenda item number 7. Any other additions, deletions to tonight's agenda? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands as amended. With that, we're going to go into a couple presentations. The first being 2019. You are first.
Good evening. It's that time of year again, and so we are working and setting the 2019-2020 budget. Yes, 2020. Everyone remembered when the year 2000. It goes by quick. So obviously this is not the whole budget, but it is a summary of the budget. And our first big thing, and we always talk about, is our taxable values. As we can see in 2008, that was the highest our taxable value was at. So then we know we had this huge decline from 2008 to 2012, which everyone did. If we look at, and people talk about, well, we're going to raise your taxes, we're going to raise your taxes. We're not raising your taxes. What has happened since no one said, oh, you were lowering my taxes when we went from 2008 to 2011. No one said that, but they knew it was true, that their taxes were going down. And if we can see in those 4 years from the 2008 to 2012, our taxes went down 18.8%. That was huge. I mean, no one expected that, because in my first 20 years here, it kept rising and rising and rising and rising. No one had a clue that this was going to happen. So beyond us all, we did survive that. The township did survive this decline of 18%. And we still have a very substantial fund balance at the end of the day. But we did use some fund balance during that time, and that's why fund balance was there. And we never went out for more millages or more taxes because we had the money available to do that. As you can look from 2012 to 2019, our taxable values have gone up. So everyone is probably noticing a rise in their taxes. It's not because the township is raising our taxes, it's because your taxable value is going up. That means the economy is getting better, the houses are selling. It's a good thing. But your taxes are going up. And we got to remember that taxes are based on the SEV, which is determined by the state of Michigan, cannot go up higher than inflation. As we can see, this slow rise after this decline, it didn't matter how fast it would decline, but the slow rise cannot not exceed inflation. So your taxes are based on that, plus the millages. As you can see, from 2012 to 2018, the millages have not increased. The township cannot unilaterally raise taxes or raise millages. They're all voter approved. As much as maybe an example of this is, as much as some people maybe wanted the roads millage to pass and to improve our road and infrastructure, it failed. Needless to say, we cannot charge us residents for roads. So that's the theory, and I keep hearing you're going to raise our taxes, you're going to vote on taxes, you're going to unilaterally raise our taxes. We cannot, as a township, general law township, raise your taxes without the vote of the people. A lot of, if you look at our taxes, a lot of it was due to debt, which is sewer separation debt. That was that big 40 million bond issue that is on your tax bill. That's this, but if you look at our operation millages, they have not changed. We are operating within our limits. They have not changed. If we look at our staffing levels, you can see this is our current full-time staffing levels. As far as currently, we have 48 individuals who are full-time, and you can see the separation of each one specifically. And we have 41 retired people on our payroll. So not only are we paying for current employees, we're paying for retired employees. And you can see they're almost identical. If we look at a big issue, and I think you'll hear about it later, is wage increases. If we look at wage increases, we are government. We used to be the poor, and now we became the fat cows because of our benefits. But when we took jobs 20 years ago, we were poorly paid. But we had our benefits, and that's why we took these positions. Now things have changed because those in the other industry got paid a lot more than we did for what we were doing. And if you look at the union contract, obviously for the last 20 years, these have been the raises for the non-union, the union, and the POAM. So 20 years of pay. And, so the average 20 years for the non-union is 2.10% per year. The union is 2.16 per year, and the POAM, which is our police union, is 2.08 per year. So if you look at that, really, and the consumer price index for that same 20-year period is 1.89. So really, the wages for the employees in the township are basically keeping up with inflation. If you look at employee cost, this is what we do. We provide services. We don't make widgets. 90% of your cost to run the township is just that, for employees. If we look at wages, which is the magenta, actually this is total payroll, total W-3 payroll, from 2015 to 2018. You can actually see that it went up, and a lot of this has to do with payouts and people retiring, so there is some jumps. But in total, payroll has pretty much stayed consistent over the last 4 years. Healthcare is a big issue, obviously. When we look at healthcare from 2015, it was going up a little bit from 2015 to 2018. So it's still, the cost of healthcare is about 15% in the industry. Ours was way below that if you look from one year to the other. Healthcare is always hard to judge because you have different compilations of families, whether they're individuals, they're divorces, there's new people, there's babies, there's whatever. So it's hard to compare apples to apples with healthcare because we don't. But in 2019 and 2020, the budget we just did, our actual healthcare costs are going down. We've taken measures to increase copays. We've just put into a new health savings account. So we are doing ways to help with the escalating healthcare cost. We also have a cap by doing the hard cap. The state of Michigan we're fully doing that to the letter of the law, and our healthcare will increase by about 3% based on what the state is allowing. Yes, we're going to talk about, and then we are going to look at MERS. Our MERS payment is actually going up. It's because we originally had we have an unfunded liability, and I'll go into that. We had an unfunded liability in the pension side that was originally supposed to be paid over 30 years. MERS has actually want these unfunded liabilities to be paid, and we're now in the 2019-2020 year budget, we're down to 21 years. So you just imagine if they took your mortgage and all of a sudden, we're going to start shrinking the time period, and what that does to your payments. Obviously, it would increase it. You'd be going, wow. But so we know that they're going to steadily increase for about the next 21 years, but we should be paid as an unfunded liability. So currently, I'm not going to hide it, our unfunded health care liability is $25 million. That number changes daily, depends on assumptions. It changes. We have currently 61 active people in that program and 36 retired people in that program. Healthcare was never, ever required to be funded. So most communities did not fund it. And then now we're getting requirements from the state to fund it. So we are taking every measure that the state is demanded on us to get that funded, and we have taken every measure. We've opened a trust account, and we're putting aside supplemental funds. So every time the state tells us to do something, we are doing exactly that. No more, no less. We're doing exactly what we're told to do. As far as MERS, we are underfunded by about $12 million. We are right now 64% funded. The average funding for retirement is about 70%. So we're right about average with all the other communities. But again, no payment has been unpaid. We are fully paying what we were required to be paid. We're told by MERS what to pay. We haven't missed a payment. We haven't paid anything less than what we were told. So as far as those go, they didn't happen overnight. They're not going away overnight. But we are doing everything we can to reduce in the future. We've changed benefits. We are doing everything we can to minimize it in the future. As far as our long-term debt, the only debt that really exists for our governmental fund, which is our general fund, is this $1.3 million, and that's for Township Hall and Water's Edge. That bond will be paid off in 2025, which alleviates about $250,000 from general fund. So that can be used later down the road to put in a capital improvements, but so that is coming to an end. If we look at the other one under business type activities, if you look at the tax sewer system and judgment bond, that was for the big construction project through the island. That will start being these two millages right here, the balance of $12 million and $4 million, that balance will be paid off starting in the year. So that's 4.5 mils on your tax bill that will start to be lowered in years 2023, 24, 25. So we do see an end to that. We are getting to the light at the end of the tunnel. And so between these two, they make up that 5.6 mils. That's a lot of money that will be gone within the next 5 years. These are water and sewer mains. Obviously, those are paid with water and sewer rates. Some additional budgeted debt in this budget. The DPW is looking at the two main water mains that are on the top priority list, which is the Park Lane water main and the Meridian Road water main. So that's about $4.5 million additionally in this budget that is maintained within the water DPW fund balance. And then the water treatment plant, there's about $1.4 million of major capital that needs to occur over there. Like I said, these are all within the DPW budget. We are not raising water rates. We are maybe raising sewer rates by like 1.3% to cover these payments. But these are major construction that needs to be done. And then for the airport, they borrowed for their runway repairs that everyone was well aware of. That was $300,000 and a build out of $700,000. So the actual principal interest is about a little over $5 million that is incorporated in this budget. Now, this is just for general fund only. If we look at general fund, from this year to last year, again, general fund is balanced. As you can see, prior year resources is zero. We are not going into fund balance to balance this budget in the current year. The total general fund budget went up 3.32% from this year to last year. And a lot of it is due to the increase in MERS, and we got additional revenue. We're doing 2.6% in tax revenue that went up, as I showed you on another chart. Our state shared revenue is going up, which is good. That's what we get to operate from the state of Michigan. And then we do have some capital expenditures in here as well that were covered this year. Expense side, obviously, again, the police department take up about 60% of general fund. Here's just what the taxes are, and we look at this again because the general fund, obviously, if you look at what our millages are for police and general operations, again, the police take about 86% for just the fringes and wages, and about 90% of all taxes collected go to the police department. This chart, we always talk about what's the future, what's the future. Do you think when I started in 1995 I would know the future? I didn't. All I can do is go by the past. That crystal ball, if I had it, I probably wouldn't be standing here. But we look at the past, and this is amazing to me. If you look at the budgets presented for the last 19 years, the general fund budget on average raised 1.58% per year. The cost of living was 1.89. So we ran this township for the last 20 years at less than inflation. I can only expect the next 20 years will be the same, because I don't have that crystal ball. In general fund, if you look at our fund balance, this is our actual revenue and expense and fund balance. You can see in the bad years, we did have a couple years that were in a downturn. I'm going to go to the next page because it kind of puts it out better. So in 2014, we had a gain. There were 3 years of still, I think we were behind the economy and we were trying to catch up. And then last year in 2018, we had a $24,000 gain. And so fund balance is still at $2.1 million at the end of the day, which is a very still significantly comfortable fund balance to be at. But we use some, if we use it in the bad times, we did use it down. Then that's what it was for. And the 2.5 million, that's what it's for. If then you're thinking, well, it's the way you guys budget to actual. But if you look at our actual budget to actual expenditures, we pretty much go into these budgets knowing almost exactly what it's going to be. Obviously, there's significant, if some significant situation happens, it throws it out of kilter. But I know I always tell these guys, sometimes it is what it is. And you can tell by looking at the last couple of years and last several years. I mean, this was an anomaly, obviously. But if you look at this, the revenue expenditures are maybe up a little bit or down. But these are actual budgets to actual. So when I do say it is what it is, sometimes it is. And a lot of it is based on history. So that is my presentation. Uh-huh.
That's it in a nutshell. That's
Yep.
budgeting 101 for those of you who are paying attention. I want to take a minute to introduce Stephanie, may I?
Sure.
Our Michigan State Senate District Number 1, our state senator, Ms. Stephanie Chang. You want to say hi, introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, please come
Please,
on.
please,
Well,
please,
we've got a
please.
riveting budget presentation going on. I'll just briefly say hello. I'm Stephanie Chang. I'm the.
Come on, there's a camera up
okay.
here at the podium,
All right,
and
okay.
let's.
Tell us how you're going to give us more money.
That's a good question, right? Well, just good evening. I just wanted to come by and say hello and listen in mainly so I could hear what was going on. But I'm Stephanie Chang. I'm the new state senator for District 1, which includes a whole lot of downriver communities, including Grosse Ile and a large portion of Detroit as well. And so just wanted to come by and listen in and just make sure you know that I'm available and all ears about things that I can do at the state level to help out, including increasing our revenue sharing. So we're working on that. But later on, I've got some information, just our contact information, to make sure people have it, including folks in the audience, as well as some information about legislation I've introduced so far. But basically, just wanted to come and say hello and listen in. So thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Coming down to see us. I've been working on it, trying to get her to move a family to Grosse Ile. Not much luck yet, but I'm going to be persistent.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by. Okay. Oh, now it's my turn and we're getting into the.
Right.
Thanks. So many buttons. Yeah, Mike. Getting on to wrapping up our current fiscal year 18-19 and getting into 2020. So my annual report. The Board of Trustees you elected in 2016, midway through our third year in office, with the primary responsibility of governance, bringing your concerns to the staff for action and ensuring the township provides the services you expect. This annual report will serve to present the state of the township, what we, your township staff and elected officials, have accomplished throughout the past year, what we're doing now, and our plans for the future. This will be my 11th year as your supervisor. My mission remains unchanged from day one to ensure the Board of Trustees and the township staff preserve and improve Grosse Ile Township as one of our country's most desirable residential communities. With the support of your Board and Board of Trustees, I will continue to seek and implement every means to develop and market those assets that distinguish Grosse Ile Township as a family's best destination to call home. We're all neighbors and stakeholders, so along with your Board, I will continue to seek your inputs and advice on how to improve both government performance and our community's appeal. So looking back, it's been another busy year for all of us at Township Hall, keeping Grosse Ile, Michigan's best place to live. Our township manager has an extensive list of accomplishments. Most are not glamorous or exciting, but absolutely necessary to keep the township running smoothly. You'll find them listed in his report. I'll cover some of the highlights and attempt to give credit where credit's due. The mission of township government is to provide service, so I'll begin with our Department of Public Services. Our major public works project, the West River Road water main replacement, went very smoothly. We should all consider it quite an accomplishment. The teamwork between our DPS Commission, engineering consultants at CE Rains, and the numerous contractors all contributed to the success. The new high-density polyethylene water main, virtually indestructible, provide reliable water for household use and fire suppression for at least the next century. In addition, we replaced sewer lines and storm drains and partnered with Wayne County to repave the road. I'm proud to announce that our DPS was awarded an American Public Works Association award for that project. At the same time, almost unnoticed, a portion of East River Road was also repaved by Wayne County. In all, we received nearly $1.2 million in road funding from Wayne County this past year. Based on this project and her other proven performance as Grosse Ile's interim director, we promoted Miss Lorinda Beneteau to the position Director of Public Services, one of the very few females to lead a public service department in the state. It was well deserved. We have some new faces in our police department. Chief Mark Warnick, along with Deputy Chief Brent Harden and Lieutenant Ken Pellin, compose our new command staff following the retirement of Joe Porcelli and Robert Bowe. I'm also pleased to introduce Susan Dalpiaz, Grosse Ile's first female police officer. And we have another one we'll be introducing later. Although after thoroughly considering all available alternatives, we signed a 30-year contract with Great Lakes Water Authority. We approached this with justifiable trepidation because the former alternative, the Detroit Water and Sewage Department, presented an uncomfortable number of concerns. We are convinced that the Great Lakes Water Authority is well managed and capable of providing affordable water to Grosse Ile for the duration of the agreement. I was disappointed to learn of the closing of the PNC Bank. The last thing we needed is another empty storefront on Macomb Street. Our Downtown Development Authority Director, Angela Secaucus, has been working to facilitate new offerings in our business district, including the new Public Service Credit Union and a Tasty Freeze. She's planning several events to bring and keep people downtown. So follow her on grosseile.com and connect. Island Fest continues to grow in attendance. offering something for everyone. Great planning and participation, along with perfect weather, resulted in a spectacular community festival. Traffic was a bit hectic as always, especially after the fireworks show, but our police and police reserves got everyone, residents and visitors alike, in and out safely for a truly memorable weekend. Island Fest 2019 opens in 2 months. Okay, at the moment, I'll begin with the latest news. Grosse Ile Township once again been named Michigan's safest community. National Council for Home Safety and Security released their findings for 2019. Hope none of us ever take this status for granted. We're all responsible for this status, from supporting our police force and the entire public safety team to looking after our neighbors and neighborhoods. This is well done to everyone. My thanks to Nature and Land Conservancy again this year. Sunrise Park, our only waterside retreat, is being transformed from a hidden gem into a real destination. The park will reopen soon. Drop in and see what they've been up to and prepare to spend more time there. Or the Gibraltar Bay unit of the International Wildlife Refuge, also stewarded by the Conservancy. And at last, progress in the demolition and remediation at the former McLeod Detroit Steel Company site across the Channel in Trenton. While many are not happy that the property will most likely be returned to some level of industrial activity, the blighted eyesore will be gone and the contamination will be removed. This will be a lengthy, tedious process with intense oversight by both the Environmental Protection Agency and the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. I'll do my best to keep you informed of any developments regarding this project, particularly those that affect our air and water quality or those that might impact the viability of the Grosse Ile Toll Bridge. With that said, please consider rumors from unaccountable sources as just that. They're rumors. We will keep you informed of every development by every means available. We are accountable to you. Okay, looking forward, all rumors aside, we are conferring regularly with Wayne County on the status of our bridges and now have a proposed schedule for repairs. Our most critical bridge, the East River Road Causeway to Meso Island, is first on the list, with the replacement to begin very soon. Only one lane will be available during construction, so expect some delays, but in the meantime, please cross the bridge slowly. The 5-mile-per-hour signs are there for your safety and the bridge's integrity. Next project will be to support piers for the Grosse Ile Parkway Bridge. We recently learned that federal funds are available for the repair of this bridge and that the pier reinforcement will be a design-build project to begin this summer. Despite even more bizarre rumors, the county has again advised us that no long-term closures are expected for this portion of the repairs. Continuing our infrastructure improvement program, this year we'll begin a project along Park Lane north of Bridge Road. You'll recall we suffered numerous water main breaks in that area due in part to aged pipes and the failed pressure-reducing valve. Like the West River Road project, this main will ensure more residents have reliable water to their homes and hydrants. In April, I'll be off to the Michigan Townships Association Conference. These professional retreats give me the opportunity to learn more from my fellow supervisors and the MTA instructors so that I can do a better job for you. My immediate quest will be for guidance on our approach to recreational marijuana. Possession of recreational marijuana, or marijuana with an H as it's spelled in legislation, is now legal in Michigan, but the yet-to-be-finalized legislation will still allow communities to opt out of allowing commercial sales within their borders. Challenge for Grosse Ile, as well as many other communities within the state, will be to honor the will of the electorate while trying to avoid the dismal results that Colorado has experienced. As a cautionary note, while legal in both Michigan and Ontario, possession of marijuana while crossing the international border remains a criminal offense under federal law, including possession on vessels on boundary waters such as the Detroit River. So please don't push your luck on that. Okay, we all agree that the roads are in terrible condition, so road funding, one of Michigan's most misunderstood financial responsibilities, will remain at the top of everyone's list of priorities for the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, with so many new faces in Lansing, there's little agreement as to how to generate the necessary dollars. This is much more than just a funding issue, with specifications, weight limits, and a number of other considerations on the table. Consider also that within the township we have 12 internal bridges, in addition to the aforementioned Meso Island Bridge, all very expensive to repair and maintain, some in better condition than others. I wish I could finally and completely quash the forecast of this township's impending fiscal doom. Municipal finance, including pensions and other post-employment benefits, is very complicated, particularly with actuarials and other costs and liabilities changing almost hourly. Our township, yours and mine, is well managed and efficiently operated with limited resources and minimal staff. We're in compliance with the letter and intent of all current legislation, no matter how poorly crafted. Thanks to shared sacrifices, we have recovered from Michigan's Great Recession and are planning for a brighter future. albeit with guarded restraint. So working together, we can and will make tomorrow's Grosse Ile an even more desirable place to live, work, and play. We should all be optimistic about our future, so I'll close by reminding everyone, once again, we all have a responsibility to make this the community we want our friends to discover and to join us, the community we're proud to call home, and the community we want to leave for our children and grandchildren. Remember, if you're lucky enough to live on Grosse Ile, you're lucky enough. Thanks again for your confidence, your support, and participation. Wraps up my thoughts on 1819. With that, we will move on to public comment on tonight's agenda items. Who wants to be first? Mr. Pilkington.
Craig Pilkington, 27985 South Point. I listened to the budget discussion. I listened to the State of the Township address. I listened to the presentation on the budget and or on the budget provided by Ann. And there's some good things in there, but I also have some questions and certainly concerns. One has to do with PA 202 and the funding for both our health care obligations and our pension obligations. And we triggered last year on pensions. We've triggered this year on retiree health. And I don't believe as of today we have received a answer back on our waiver application that was put into the state. And for all the good things that were said, we do have a determined by a recent study, an actuarial study, an unfunded liability for health care, which is retirement, our retiree health care, retiree only health care, of over $25 million. Which has gone up over $5 million in the last 10 years. Our unfunded liability on pensions has gone up over $6 million in the last 10 years. And these are significant amounts. And although they weren't really broached in the budget sessions, I thought I'd just share a couple of things as far as our retiree health triggers that or thresholds that we have exceeded. And that is, we are 25th from the bottom in the entire state of Michigan as a jurisdiction. There are over 770 municipal jurisdictions in the state of Michigan. Most of them, we're in a small minority that actually offers still the retiree health care. And the state is looking for 40% of the unfunded liability and a plan to fund 40% of that over a 30-year period. Now, we've looked at the submissions that were made to the state. On Form 5584, we did not see a schedule. This is over $10 million. And I don't think that was discussed tonight at all. They are also looking for the threshold amount on what it will cost us out of our government revenue funds to fall below the trigger within 5 years, a plan to bring it below the trigger within 5 years, and that wasn't discussed at all. The suggestion has been made that the supplemental payments from the CVTRS and I think that's a single payment of $8,300 annually, is that correct? I'm sorry? It's $6,800, okay. And the projection is to hit that 40% funding figure, we're going to need about $92,000 to $94,000 annually in funding. And even though we're presenting a balanced budget, I don't think this has been taken into consideration, and we have to be concerned with what we are able to pay, what we can afford to pay. And if you were also talking about loaning a
I mean, you're like 4 minutes into your
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm
I
sure you
will-
have plenty more.
I do, and I'm sorry. I was trying to make it concise. This will further burden and cannibalize, I think, the general fund if we are forced to rely on the general
Closing
fund.
comment for you. We have no statutory obligation to provide health care for anyone, other than what's contractually under our current union contracts. So the board could vote to eliminate the health care and be out from under that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're choosing not to do that.
Right.
We'll just close with that. We've handed most of it over to MERS, if not all of it, and they're running their actuarials. The health care is so nebulous that you can throw any number you want. That number changes by the minute. So where we are on it right now, tomorrow, next day, it's going to be different.
Well, we'll see whether we receive the waiver from the state. Because the next step will be, we will have to present a corrective action plan with concrete steps.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pilkington. Other public comment, Mr. Heil.
Bill Heil. Didn't know I was choked. Bill Heil, East River Road. I know that a lot of thought from all of us has gone into this budget and some of these other concerns. I was mentioning to Uda at the end of the meeting a parallel for the concept I'd like to quickly articulate. If we think of a family budget, if a family went on a large vacation, they might have to find that this car they have that's got a lot of miles on it has to be stretched for a couple of years further in order to make ends meet and keep the balanced budget there. It's an example of how when you spend money in one place, it has impact on all of the others. And my concern is that we have, if we look into the future beyond 1 year at a time, and I feel that's a wise choice to make, we have impending a lot of retiree liability coming up because the average age of our population is not ancient, but it's not young, and retirement is on the horizon. And when you then find new people to replace them and still have these added retirement benefits to pay, we have a load. Reserving for that as much as we can afford to do and finding ways to do that is significant. So I think that it's wise to perhaps consider a consultant to try and get a clear understanding around what our impending liabilities are from all sources, and then figure out how we are going to apportion money to function not only for the benefit of our employees, but for the long-term benefit of this community. I've said before that I'm not totally worried about this year or next year, but somewhere in the future I see a pinch. That was the word I used. And I still stand by that remark, and I think getting more involved in a real plan would be beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heil. Other comments? Seeing Mrs. Walker.
Kathy Walker, 26051 Thorpe Court. I just have a question. I know that you're doing you want to do a project, a big $1 million project in the old Iverson building, and there was a fire there a couple years ago, wasn't there?
Okay, this is
And there was a fire at the,
Yeah,
the
well,
front
I'm just getting to the point. If there was a fire, there was insurance, and did we get a payout of the insurance? Because I was thinking maybe if you got insurance money, that was put back into it, and that would have lowered the $1 million project, or,
money that we got from it to repair the fire damage.
So the building is rentable right now.
Yeah, but that's the other building.
It's not the same building?
Not the same building.
Not the same building?
No,
Okay, so that wouldn't affect it at all?
no.
Okay, great. I just want to know, because it seems like a lot of money on an IFCOM. A lot of money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walker. Other comments? Okay, with that offer, let's move on to consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Brian. I'd like to move for approval of consent agenda 18-091, which is the minutes of the March 8th, 2019 regular meeting. Check register dated through March 22nd, 2019. Commission and committee appointments and reappointments. Appointments appointment to a new member of the Open Space Committee, adoption of bylaws, Robert Rules of Order, 10th edition, and Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised in brief, Recreation Department drug and alcohol policy for the SMART bus grant, and lastly, approval of funds payable through April 1st, and for the clerk and treasurer to make payables available through the end of the fiscal year.
Support.
Okay, moved by treasurer, seconded by trustee Budney. Any discussion among the board on the consent agenda? None offered. Those in favor of approving the consent agenda as amended, please signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
Please there, I've got my mic back on. Please signify. Gotta remind me, Jim. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay.
Aye again.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's move on to tonight's action items. Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to have a motion based on the recommendation of the DPS Commission. Motion to approve a compensation adjustment of 2.67%, which is $10,992.12, for Suez Environmental Services, Inc., for contract services at the wastewater treatment plant for fiscal year 2019-2020, as outlined in Section 3, compensation effective April 1st, 2019.
Support.
Okay, moved by trustee Buddy, seconded by treasurer Van Oss.
This is an annual increase, part of the contract that was approved with Suez some time ago. We go through this every year. We have to approve the increase. The increase is based on two different adjustments. 76% of that increase is based on the ECI, and 24% is based on the CPI, coming together to be equal to 2.67%. It is, as I say, part of the contract. We do this every year, and this, I believe, is our last year of that contract. So, just doing our annual deeds.
Questions, comments for Mr. Buddy? None offered. Those in favor of approving the recommendation of the DPS Commission, the compensation adjustment of 2.67% for Suez Environmental Services Incorporated for contract services at the wastewater treatment plant for fiscal year 2019 through 20, as outlined in Section 3, compensation effective April 1st, 2019. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None offered. That will carry. Second action item will also belong to
Yes.
our DPS.
Just let me get to it. Here we go. Again, based on the recommendation of the DPS Commission and the Charles E. Raines Company, our township engineers, motion to award a contract for the 2019-2020 local streets sectioning program to Dominic Gaglio Construction, Inc., the lowest qualified bidder, in the amount not to exceed $480,682.50.
Okay, moved by trustee Budney, again seconded by treasurer Van Oss.
And the history on this is kind of a follow-up. Wayne County has been making money available to townships. It is much like the very first one we had, where we got $500,000 to work on our residential roads. This one is $388,000 from Wayne County, $880. $388,888 from Wayne County. We have to match 20%, which is $77,777.60, and that gives us money to work on our local roads, not the main roads, not a Meridian or an East River, but rather your your Burning Bush or Berkshire or Boar's Head or whatever. Residential roads. We, of course, every time this has been made available to us, we've jumped at it because it's a good deal. We get a good amount of money, something where we can actually make some improvements, whether it's crack sealing, slab replacement. Sectioning is the big thing now, where instead of replacing a whole slab, you take about 18 inches along the seam on either side and just replace that, because that's where all the damage usually is. So that's what this is, and the DPS Commission certainly thought we should take advantage of it.
Part of the advantage we have is, unlike when the partnership first came out a couple of years ago, some communities could not come up with the matching funds. So they had to take a pass at them. We might have gotten some of that the following year, but we can come up with our matching share and do what we can with the dollars available to fix as many roads or portions thereof, preserve the roads we have, and just looking after just housekeeping. Comments from the board, Mr. Fletcher?
I have two questions, Mr. Supervisor. Jim, they show that on the chart that accompanied our packet, there's 26 roads that start with Rio and end up with Massey Court. How were those roads determined to be as part of this project?
The DPS, in this case, it wasn't the whole DPS commission, but John Keim, Bill Kostick, the chair, and Raines, much like we actually do every year, drove the roads of Grosse Ile, try to pick two things: the worst roads, the worst needs, within the thought that we can actually do them. There could be some needs that it'd take the whole amount to fix, so we're not going to pick that. We want to get as much done around the island, which is the other thing. It's not centered in one area. It's the whole island, and we do the driving of the island every year, sometimes a couple of times a year, just depending on what money's going to be available, to figure out what projects we want to do.
Second question I have is that the difference between the successful first bidder and the second place bidder is $480,000, and the second one is $481,000. Obviously, the second bidder, Campo Brothers, we have a history with. I was concerned when we did the West River project how well we had vetted the person. I don't know anything about Gaglio. Do know that Charlie's done a lot of good work for us.
They have a lot. What we go by with that is, and we are looking for knowledge of whoever we're hiring, not just it's the lowest bidder. Our engineering company has a history with this company in other communities. They performed well. They had no problems with them. I think it's vital in a case like that, where you know that they're going to give you good work, that the real determining factor was the dollar amount. We need to do that simply because if we keep picking the same person every time, all of a sudden we're only going to have one bid. Right. So we don't want to do that. And in a case where there's no questions regarding another company, we should take them, and that's what the DPS Commission thought.
I was just looking at the difference being less than 1/4% between the two bids. And if you're comfortable with that, based on the history that C.E. Raines has, makes all the sense to go with the lowest bidder.
Not only the history, but also it gives us a chance to see firsthand another company, another resource available to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Other questions, comments from the board? Madam Clerk?
Jim, just a quick follow-up then. Is there anything in place in case you find that they are not easy to work with?
Well, we're going to hold them to their contract, number one. And number two, that would be a reason. And it has happened with DPS down where the lowest bid, we have had a history with them. They weren't that good, and we would not take them.
Okay, other questions, comments for Mr. Budney? If not, then those in favor of, based on the recommendation of the DPS Commission and the Charles E. Raines Company, our township engineers, to award the contract for the 2019-2020 local street sectioning program to Dominic Gaglio Construction Incorporated, the lowest qualified bidder, in the amount not to exceed $480,682.50, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. That carries. Move on to action item number 3. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Elena M. Farmer as the Elections and Records Clerical Assistant, subject to the terms and conditions outlined in the letter dated March 13, 2019, and the current TPOAM contract agreement.
Support.
So just to give you, thank you, gentlemen, just to give you a little history, the Elections and Records Clerical Assistant position was advertised. We advertised it on grosshill.com, the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks website, the Association of Wayne County Clerks network, and we also did a push notification on Gross Hill Connect, and of course we did a lot of word of mouth, reaching out to all the other clerks in our community that we thought might have talent to come toward us. We received 33 applications, and the application screening committee included Township Manager Dale Riem, DPS Director Lorinda Beneteau, Recreation Director Kim O'Farrell, Commerce Park and Airfield Manager Mike Duker, and Payroll Payables Benefits Specialist Karen Johnson, and the Clerk's Office Manager Deputy Clerk Brian Friel. After the original initial screening, they chose 6 candidates to interview face-to-face, and the interview committee at one point then actually made a unanimous recommendation to, essentially to introduce the candidate to me, and I got a chance to interview her myself and meet with her, and then to move forward with this appointment. Let's see here. The top candidate, again, was unanimously selected by the committee, and we are now recommending her for hire. The starting hourly wage for this position is $19.99 an hour, and by contract will increase every year, just like the contract requires. And I think after a certain point, will hit a certain ceiling. And that all depends on the rates of the contracts that are negotiated moving forward. What happened in this process is that Deputy Clerk Sharon Bennett Gray retired just about a year ago, and we decided to keep the vacancy open for a time period to save some money. And Deputy Clerk Friel felt very comfortable moving the department forward for a short period of time, basically alone. We're a funny little department. There's 1.5 of us. Deputy Clerk Friel is the one, I'm the half. As you know, we're just part-time. And we actually have 3 retirees. And so we've got quite a bit on our plate. I met the candidate, Ms. Farmer. She currently works in the banking industry. She has a very strong resume. She has a delightful sense of humor, so I think she'll work well with our team. All the people she will be working with on a regular basis have met her and have approved her, so I now asking for you to approve our recommendation of this candidate.
Questions, comments among the board? Mr. Budney.
Yeah, Uda, could you just tell us, please, why you need this position filled?
Okay. Well, part of the reason is that we are down to a department of 1, which means that 1 employee will not be able to take vacations, will not be able to take a lunch hour without literally closing down the clerk's office on a 9 to 5 basis. That is something I find unacceptable. The second thing is that the duties of the deputy clerk and this assistant are essentially different enough and high enough in volume to require two separate people. The clerk's office, many of our accounting duties are already absorbed by the finance department, but that still leaves records management, election coordination, FOIA processing, and actually quite a long list of things that people find not too exciting but are statutorily mandated by us. And so we found two people who are actually excited to be doing those duties. And one of the things that was discussed in this process is, could one of the members, say the cashier or a member of the finance department, take on some of these duties? But in reducing and combining our finance department from having three separate teams working for the treasurer, the clerk, and the supervisor, we now have to make sure that we have separation of duties, so that nobody is crossing, I think Carl told me the name was the Chinese wall, so that all the accounting practices, no one person can do two conflicting things. But also because of the timing, tax season and elections sometimes coincide, and so then that staff would not be able to do anything for the either or, the election or the taxing staff. And elections take probably 6 to 8 months to plan, execute, and then wind down from. The reason we're happy to hire this candidate now is because 2020 is another presidential election year. It's the biggest election in our 4-year cycle. And she and actually Deputy Clerk Friel and I are all going to have to be retrained, because there are new election laws and new election equipment, and everybody in the state of Michigan basically has to get up to speed by 2020. So we have a lot on our plate, but in meeting the candidate, I know that she's up to the challenge. She's technically savvy, she's very bright, and I know that she'll be able to hit the ground running when we need her to.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions, comments for the clerk regarding this addition to her staff? With none offered, those in favor of approving the hiring of Elena M. Farmer as the Elections and Records Clerical Assistant, subject to the terms and conditions outlined in the letter dated March 13, 2019, and the current TPOAM contract agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your support on making this happen. I know Brian is very much looking forward to having some help in that office. So thank you again.
Oh, we're not replacing Brian with this? Oh,
But remember, eventually he'll be retiring too, and we'll need someone to be there to take his place, just like he actually grew to take over Sharon's spot. And I have to tell everybody, this is not happy smoke. I'm just very impressed with the job that Brian has done since he took over as the deputy clerk. Kudos to you, Brian. It's not been easy, but you've done a very good job.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thanks for filling up your staff. The clerk's office is kind of the go-to shop in townships anyway. I can't say for cities in particular, but we can't afford to be one deep much longer.
Well, especially with passport season coming up, and all the other things that when people have questions, they usually come to us first, and so I don't want that gate down.
Okay, so why we're here, or one of the big reason we're here, we're getting into budget time, and let's take our pens and recommended action. Request the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees adopt the fiscal year ending 2020 combined township budget effective April 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2020. Okay, moved by the supervisor, seconded by the treasurer. Topic of, we just had the presentation, topic of two study sessions. The boards had the final the final-ish iteration after we worked to develop the budget since March 4th. We are where we are. Any discussion among the board? Mr. Budney.
I'd just like to say this is probably one of the toughest things we do all year. The budget obviously is for the whole township, for everything that works. So despite, in my case, I do have parts of the budget that I disagree with. However, those are just parts, and I'm not willing to not support the whole township because of a couple of items that I will continue to work on after this that I think need to be worked on. But I have to look at it from a standpoint of the total community, and thus I will be supporting the budget.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Buddy. To kind of expand on what Jim's brought up, this budget, you can look at it as a plan. I look at it going back to my previous life. This is an appropriation. We're setting up appropriations for the year. We haven't authorized anything. So as these items come up throughout the year, the things that are in the plan, in the appropriations, as they come up as action items, that's when the board will decide to authorize the expense, to modify the expense, to delay it, or to eliminate it. So this is just a plan, just an appropriation. Other questions, comments from the board? Madam Clerk.
Well, just to let Bill Heil know that I was listening, I think of it a little bit as that family vacation planning, right? This is when you sit down with the family and say, what would you like to do on vacation this year? And you put your wish list together. And then you work throughout the year to see what happens, what's actually feasible, what's not feasible. And so this is to me, this has always been a work in progress. And I also know a lot of people have put a lot of work and thought into this project, into this plan. And but we will also be looking at the individual items piece by piece throughout the year. So I support this budget.
Madam Clerk, Mr. Bletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Like Mr. Budney, I have things in this budget that I don't like. I do think it is overall a balanced budget. It's prudent for this year and for the coming year. I am also recalling comments that were made during the study session that there should be some effort soon going forward with analyzing jobs. One of the things that I find very, very difficult in this job is to look at whether or not we are paying appropriately for a position. The point made during the study session was if we're too low, then that's going to cost us money. If we're too high, we're going to save money. But I really, really, really would like to see an analysis done so we can stop having every year to come back and have the same discussion, the spot raises, and those kinds of considerations. I really, really support the idea of having an analysis done. But I, too, am going to support the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Other comments from the board? None offered. Does this require a roll call? Brian? With that, we will run a roll call vote to adopt the fiscal year ending 2020 combined township budget effective April 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2020. We'll have a roll call vote. I will begin. Supervisor, aye. Madam Clerk?
Aye.
Mr. Treasurer?
Aye.
Trustee Budney?
Aye.
Trustee Nelson?
Aye.
Trustee Bletcher?
Aye.
Trustee Malvesto? Motion carries. Thank you. A lot of work went into it, and we've got our plan going forward. With that, I'll introduce the next action item, non-union management wage chart. Requesting the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees adjust the non-union employees' wages for fiscal year 2019 through 2020 in accordance with the proposed non-union wage adjustment chart dated March 25th, 2019, which includes a 2.36% cost of living adjustment and a $12,067.86 market adjustment for the administrative assessing assistant.
Order.
Okay, moved by Supervisor, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. This was a topic of most of tonight's discussion in our study session, why we went with the 2.36 cost of living adjustment and why the raise for the administrative assistant. First part, the 2.36 COLA. In times past, we have followed the local area, it's Detroit, Warren, and Dearborn area consumer price index as the basis for the COLA. When it was 1.58, management, the non-union and management got a 1.58 COLA. There were years when they received zero. There was a year where they took furloughs. The raise is budgeted. We have the revenues for it. I'd like to see the non-union get this raise to keep them moving forward, keep their income levels consistent with their expenses, keep them happy to work for the township. Comments from the board? With none offered, those in favor of adjusting the non-union employees' wages for the fiscal year 2019 through 20 in accordance with the proposed non-union wage adjustment chart dated March 25, 2019, which includes a 2.36% cost of living adjustment and a $12,067.86 market adjustment for the administrative assistant, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Nay.
Okay, we have, let me clarify, we have a nay from Trustee Malvesto and a nay from Trustee Bletcher. Motion carries. Thank you. With that, Madam Clerk.
All right, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Let me pull this up here. This is a kind of fun thing that we get to do every year, though we've done this with more ceremony in past years. Our annual meetings have gotten shorter and more consistent with our regular meetings over the years. There was a time we used to actually have a little reception for the chair people and volunteers for the township. But right now it is my honor and my pleasure to move to appoint for fiscal year 2019 through 2020 Mr. John Schweikert to serve as chairperson of the Planning Commission for the term April 1, 2019 to the term March 31st, 2020.
Terms are the same for the fiscal year, so if we, Mr. Treasurer.
Right. I would like to appoint Mr. Ron Moran as chairperson of the Brownfield Authority for the term of April 1, 2019 to March 31st, 2020.
Mr. Budney.
I would like to appoint for fiscal year 19-20 William Kostick as chairperson of the Public Service Commission for the term April 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Bletcher.
I move to appoint for fiscal year 2019 through 20 Cliff St. Pierre as chairperson of the Greenways Open Space Committee for the term of April 1, 2019 through March 31, 2020.
Mr. Malvesto.
I'd like to appoint Jerry Bringard for the fiscal year 2019 through 2020 as the chairperson of the Fire Commission for the term of April 1st, 2019 through March 31st of 2020.
Clerk.
I would like to move to appoint Anthony Kraus as chairperson of the Construction Board of Appeals, again for the term April 1st, 2019 to March 31st, 2020.
Mr. Bletcher.
Thank you. I move to appoint for fiscal year 2019 through 20 Paul Anderson as chairperson of the Police Commission for the term of April 1, 2019 through March 31, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
I would like to reappoint Chad Novak as the chair of the Community Recreation Commission for the term of April 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2020.
Mr. Nelson, Mr. Treasurer.
Yes, I'd like to appoint Ron Moran to the chairman of the Airport Commerce Park Commission for the period of April 1st, 2019 to March 31st, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
I would also like to reappoint Chad Novak as the chair of the Festival Commission. Does a wonderful job, obviously, for the term starting on April 1st, 2019 through March 31st of 2020.
Thank you. And I would like to appoint Mr. Ron Moran as Chair of the Downtown Development Authority for the term April 1, 2019 through March 31st, 2020. I'd also like to appoint Mr. Brian Medved to the Island Beautification Committee Chair position for the term of April 1st, 2019 through March 31st of 2020. Mr. Budney.
I would like to move to appoint James Bittinger as Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the term April 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2020.
Treasurer.
I'd like to appoint Alan Anderson as the Chair of the Airport Advisory Committee for the period of April 1st, 2019 to March 31st, 2020.
Thank you. Mr. Bletcher.
I move to appoint for fiscal year 2019 through 20 Brian Pollock as chairperson of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission for the term of April 1, 2019 through March 31, 2020.
Thank you. I'd like to appoint for the fiscal year 19 through 20 Salam Durrani as chair of the Board of Review for the term April 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2020.
And finally, I'd like to move to appoint Peter Klunder as chairperson of the Municipal Ordinance Violation Bureau for the term of April 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2020.
Okay, thank you one and all, and I think I can speak for all the board. Thank you for the volunteers, those of you who've taken the extra burden of chairing and running these commissions and committees. That's what keeps the community rolling. So thank you one and all. And let's see, that's it for action items.
I think that's it for action. Kim is trying to channel Mr. Nelson.
I hate getting in the way of that. Okay, with that, we'll step on to the clerk's report. Madam Clerk.
All right. Try to keep it short, but Brian, do we have an election this year, 2019?
We should have a police and fire villages.
Right. So this is an off year for elections, but it depends on the township board whether we call an election for various millages that are either becoming due or that we'd like to renew, or new millages. I'd like to tell the kids at the high school, they're all watching us because this is, great TV. It's never too early to register if you're going to be 19 by an election day. 18 by an election day. We are also looking to the high school for some young students, high school students, 16 and over, to work with us as election poll inspectors. And we've created a kind of a program where we bring in the high school kids to work with our senior volunteers, basically, to staff the electronic poll books and to help out with some of the more technologically intimidating features of Election Day. We're finding, though, that many of our senior volunteers are now actually becoming more comfortable with it. But on Election Day, it is really fun to see the young people and the rest of us engaging together during this process. And while we call them volunteers, they do get paid a small stipend for their duties. And it's a long day. It starts usually at 4 a.m. And depending on, the turnout and the way things go, it could end by 8 p.m. or midnight. So it calls for some dedication. So if you're at all interested, keep in mind and get in touch with Brian. Send us an email and get involved in that way. And then again, I want to thank everybody for supporting our staffing of Elena. She will be a very welcome addition to our team. There are a lot of things that, even though they've been getting done, it will be reassuring to know that we've got backup and that we will be able to move forward and plan for these things, because there are so many small details. And while Brian and Gail kind of have a system down, every year there are changes, and so then everything has to get readjusted. So Senator Chang, thank you so much for coming. It's really nice to have you representing us in Lansing, but it's also nice to see you come and be interested in our activities today.
Uda or Brian, I just wanted the vote that we will have this year. It's in August, correct? Or
As soon as you guys, I can't get this anywhere. As soon as you guys make a decision on that, you guys have to vote on that. So that'll come, and we'll put together the
okay,
proposals, and you guys will vote on when we have them.
when we have them, August or November.
We can
Okay.
promote it to have it either in August or November, or both. There have been years where,
Hopefully not. That could happen.
so you never know.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Brian. On my website, and it will be in the next board meeting packet. There's been a to Wayne County. This site is up to date with all tax information, including payment to Wayne County can also be made by mail and in person at 400 Road. I think the mail is something. Township. I'm sorry, the town. Property tax.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Our next Commerce Park meeting is the 14th of April, or the 15th, I'm sorry, tax day.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Let's move on to trustee liaison reports. Mr. Budney.
You, Mr. Supervisor. DPS meeting, our next DPS meeting will be in April, April 9th, here in the boardroom at 7 o'clock. We do have a ZBA. Evidently, our ZBA meeting went over so well last month that we're going to have another one tomorrow. We have two cases that we'll be looking at. If you recall, at our last meeting before this, we talked about a resolution, possible resolution on the McClough Steel site to just let Trenton know what we're thinking, what we're interested in. The idea was, do we want to do something or don't we? I will be talking to my fellow board members to find out what they're thinking and possibly bring something forth at our next meeting if we're going to do something. Or let the residents know that we're not going to do something. It seems to be an important thing to them. I think it is an important thing, regardless of whether we do or don't, that we tell them. And lastly, this Wednesday is our second question and answer session. It's for the residents to come and ask their questions and get an answer. It is not to debate an issue. It's not to say we did the right thing, the wrong thing, but it is to give them answers to their questions. And that will be this coming Wednesday at 6 o'clock here in the boardroom. So please come. We had a really, really nice turnout last time we did it. About a couple dozen people showed up, and I thank them for that. And I believe we've gotten everybody an answer to their questions that we couldn't answer at the meeting. So we did pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Mr. Malvesto.
First off, I'd like to start with Chief Murdoch, please. Seeing as it's an annual meeting, he has just a few notes as to the fire department, and it's better to hear from the horse's mouth, correct?
The horse.
Good evening. I just wanted to start off by saying it was a busy year, and I want. Is it off?
Doesn't sound like it's on.
It was one of our busiest years we've ever had, and I want to thank the board for their ongoing support. Just kind of a little history lesson. When I started in the fire department 41 years ago, we did 150 calls a year with 50 guys. Now we're doing 700 calls with 28 guys. So the numbers are increasing, our population is aging, and of course 80% of our run base is EMS. That being said, like I said, we made 700 calls this year. We got together with trainings 40 times this year. We met as a group 12 times this year. And then my officer corps, my management team, we met 12 times a year. Some of the things we got accomplished this year, open house was another great success, as it always is. We did add a piece of equipment to our a fleet of equipment, and we put together a mass casualty trailer. I don't know if the entire board knows what we did, but the purpose behind that trailer is to handle upwards of about 70, 80 patients at one time. And we all know why, because of some of the incidents that have been taking place across the country when it comes to mass casualty incidents. So that was a good addition to our fleet of equipment. We've done some major upgrades to the building this year. We've had an enormous amount of equipment upgrades and repairs this year. And then also we've added about 5-6 new members. So because the department, of course, is aging. That also being said, please understand that the fire department, with its health care, eliminated long-term health care after retirement as of 2013. Any new members after 2013 will not receive long-term health care after retirement. So that portion of what we did will help some of that run off or die away or when it goes away. So, but that has taken place. Yeah, and I'm getting older, so that's going to be part of the. So, I want to touch base with a couple of things Brian and I, of course, are working on. I know Dale's been involved with the bridge situation. Of course, I know Brian touched on it briefly. It has been an ongoing project with this township board and public safety staff to make sure these bridges get repaired. We are moving forward. We've got some more concrete dates and times when it comes to those repairs. Will they hold true? We'll see what happens. We do know that the East River Road Bridge, or the Mesa Island Bridge as we call it, is in desperate need of repair, and that is definitely slated for this spring. If we do not see that occur, you can betcha that Brian and I will be on the county over that one. So that repair is up and coming. We have some things in place if that bridge does fail anytime soon, that we can move forward and do an emergency repair of that bridge. So that's going on. Another project that Brian and I are working on closely on, we're in our 6-year rewrite of the Wayne County Plan, Emergency Response Plan with Homeland Security and Wayne County Emergency Management. It's a long, drawn-out process. Sometimes it can be boring, but it's a very much needed document for this community and all the communities downriver. That is the document that will protect Groseal if we have any type of mass situation, tornado goes through and we have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage. That being said, we also have our own plan. We're one of only a few communities in the county that have private plans, and we put that plan together 20 years ago, 19 years ago. 2001. Is that what it was? Yeah. And so we put that plan together because Groseal and its where it's located is a very unique community, and I think the biggest thing is the 2 bridges that connect this island to the mainland. We see the problems that are starting to occur with these bridges because they're 100 years old plus, where I think we're going to be dealing with those problems more and more often. So that being said, it's just something that's like living next to a railroad track or an airport. It's just something we got to deal with. And then the last thing is, I just wanted the board to know that the fire and police work extremely close with the schools. We have communications built into the schools. We have all kinds of stuff that if we need to shut these schools down because of something, or we need to evacuate, whatever the case may be, we have direct lines, direct communication with the schools. And police and fire maintain these systems within the schools, the radios that we do have. So these are expenses that are out there, but I think they're very important expenses. So keeping our children safe is definitely top of mine and Mark's priority list. So that being said, if you have any questions for me about what we're doing as a fire department, please.
Yeah, Chief, I thought about you and all the hard work and planning that both your departments do. And, we've been through some disasters together in the years that we've been here, going back to Adafina when it first really dawned on us how difficult something like that could be. But a couple of weeks ago, my husband and I were on campus at U of M at a rally and a vigil when we realized to some degree our culture is in a state of PTSD, right? It was also the day before St. Patrick's Day. There were a lot of, unfortunately, very inebriated people around the campus. Some balloons were popped. Panic set in. U of M had a plan. They had a tremendous, I'm getting goosebumps now because my kids were there. I was there. You didn't know what was happening. I think the hardest part of the whole experience was everything going out on social media that ended out to be not true. And the communications that came from the university's Department of Public Safety that were true, that were telling people to be calm, that were telling people updates that what you may be hearing in social media may not be true. At some point, some of my kids' friends were holed up in Mason Hall. They were being told that there were 3 active shooters. These kids were piling anything they could in front of doorways. They were traumatized. And the fact that it turned out to be a false alarm doesn't take away what they felt when it happened. They've grown up with this every year. So the fact that you and Mark are preparing, and we can put our heads in the sand and say this will never happen on Grosse Ile, touch wood, but that you're prepared means so much. It means so much. So thank you, and thank your people for putting their lives on the line too to protect our kids. Whether or not a situation pans out, you hope it's false, but that there are people there willing to protect us, it just means a lot to all of us people on the island. Thank you.
Chief, Mr. Tom?
I have something else. I'm going to finish up, but Chief, when you talk about the rapid response trailer, we have two rescue ambulances on the island, but when you show up at a scene, that allows you to take care of how many people?
Well, with 2 ambulances and the trailer itself,
I'm
probably
just talking
about
about the
100
trailer.
people.
So the necessity of the trailer is an ambulance would allow you to take care of 1 or 2 people with the supplies on hand, but the trailer brings in a whole nother level of supplies that would allow you to take care of a larger group. That's the necessity, and that's the purpose of it, is to bring in additional supplies that, quite frankly, once your ambulances leave the scene, there's no other medical
other than mutual aid coming in, which
supplies there. So this is what that trailer really is giving you. Hopefully, it never leaves the garage.
And the crazy part about this whole situation is the ambulances and the trailer itself. Everything that's on these ambulances, I got born-on dates on it. So even if you don't use it, you're done after 1 year with it. So you have to take it all off and get rid of it.
I just want to congratulate you on reaching half of your career. Keep up the
I've
good
been here
work.
a long time, and I've been chief almost as half of that time. So
you're not going anywhere.
So
You told me you got another. You had 40. You got another 40 to go.
we'll talk about that later. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
I'd like to just one more thing. It's that time of year. It's the Lenten season, and we talked about the Knights of Columbus and their fish dinners. It's going extremely well for them. The first week there were 591 people served, It went to 601, and this past week was 608. So that's in a 3-hour period. They are serving approximately 600 meals. Lots to carry out. I mean, it could be a pizza, it could be mac and cheese, but that's the number of people that have been served. You got a core group of people who put this on, work very, very hard at it, and put a lot of long, hard hours. But you've also got a group of volunteers, probably 120 to 130, if what I've been told is correct, that for 7 consecutive weeks show up and volunteer their time to make this event happen. I look at it, there's also another group of volunteers. That would be the 600 people or so that show up and get meals. The fact that they're willing to, on a weekly basis, they might make it a week, 2 weeks. In a lot of cases, there's 7 weeks, 7 consecutive weeks. They'll show up and support this event, and it's manned by not only the people who are attending are coming from off island or on island. It's really amazing how widespread the word of this event is. But it's just impressive when you see a large group of people work for a long period of time to make something happen, and then the response they get by people coming in and supporting it is as large as it is. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to the Knights. Thank you to the volunteers. And thank you to the people who continue to support it. And got another 4 weeks. Like to see you there.
Thank you, Mr. Malvesto. Let's move on to Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Brian. I neglected, Jim, when you went through your roads presentation. Is the 25 roads on here, is that ranked 1 through 25, or is that just a list?
That's just the list, yeah.
Thank you. And I also want to thank Ann for doing a wonderful job, as usual, on the budget report. And at this time, I'd like to bring up our Recreation Director, Kim O'Farrell, to give us the rec report. Please.
Good evening. Just a couple of announcements. Our annual Easter event is Saturday, April 13th at 10 a.m. We're looking, hopefully, for great weather. That includes the Easter egg hunt, refreshments, prizes, treat bags, and also the Easter Bunny will be there. It's $5 per person. You can register online at grosealerecreation.com. Community recreation meeting is this Thursday at 6 p.m. And also, we are fine-tuning the summer brochure profile magazine, which will be hitting the households the first week of May, with a full lineup of all the concerts, everything that's going on in the swimming pool. Everyone's asking, when does the golf course open? Weather permitting, we're looking at hopefully this 3rd or 4th week in April. That's kind of what we're targeting for. We'll get the range open as soon as possible. It's just so wet. We can't get things open when it's that wet. So we're praying for good weather to get things open. And last thing, I'm just asking our residents to try to keep with what's happening, not only with Island Fest, which I'll bring Chad up, but with all the recreation programs that we offer. Please follow the Recreation Facebook page. And we are almost up to 850 followers in about 8 months. So I'm very proud that people are following us. We work with Gyra, we work with GISA, all our community groups, everything that's going on. I post on the Facebook page. So if you want to kind of know what's going on with Nature and Land Conservancy, Gyra, GISA, all of our community partners, follow our page, Grosse Ile Recreation Facebook page. And my last thing, summer camp is coming up. Registrations, we're going to be opening that up in about 3 weeks for our youth summer camp. I had posted on Facebook that we are looking for donations from our community. It's spring cleanup time. I know a lot of moms are cleaning out the attics, old board games. We are looking for board games. We don't do the Xbox and the PlayStations at summer camp, so we go back to the traditional board games, arts and crafts, and any learning material that you may want to donate to the Recreation Department for our youth summer camp. Actually, there was a donation last weekend, 3 huge piles of board games, like Chutes and Ladders and and those types of games that we all remember. So, and I'm not sure who donated that. I was out of town, but I just wanted to say thank you to that person that dropped those off. So that'll be fun for our summer camp. But if you have anything, just drop it off at Water's Edge. So thank you for everything, and I'm going to let Chad talk about Island Fest.
I need that turned on, please. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for bringing me back on for the recreation chair position, the festival chair position. We do have a meeting, like Kim said, this Thursday for recreation. The next Island Fest meeting is April 17th. We have a study session from 6 to 7. We've been working really good with the police guys, the fire guys, took the time out to come to the last meeting. If you go to GrosdaleIslandFest.com, it gives you all the updates and how you can be a volunteer. And we have 117 spots for volunteers. We have 7 filled. I know y'all received your letters this week about the parade, so everybody needs to get on board and be in that parade this year. You know, we need to really bring it. And you're going to see this logo going around town. This is what the new volunteer T-shirts look like. I just want to make sure it doesn't go to a different picture. So, hashtag Love My Island is a slogan that I've been trying to get on a T-shirt for 3-4 years now. The front of the T-shirt obviously has the festival logo, Grosedale Island Fest. The back is hashtag Love My Island, which I know all of us do in this room. So that being said, Island Fest, May 31, June 1, 2. Please go to GrosdaleIslandFest.com.
You need help.
You had your choice here. I'm nothing now. Okay, I'm just kidding. I can't say how much I respect and enjoy working with Kim. You know, she has just been so great to bring to this community, you know. I mean,
hard to tell.
We work. My phone. She, was teaching me a lot about budgets and stuff like that, and which we all just talked about. So once again, GrosdaleIslandFest.com. Please sign up to volunteer, sponsorships, exhibitors, all that is online. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hashtag Love My Island.
Thank you, Chad. And Kim.
Chad, Kim, you're a great team. Thank you so much for all you do.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Bletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. In lieu of doing a monthly report, I'd like to review what the annual statistics have been with 3 different areas. First of all, I have the pleasure of sitting on the Grosedale Police Department. Last year, I think it's important for everyone here and at home to recognize that we answered 13,830 calls for service, wrote 91 accident reports, 29 OWIs, 573 notices to appear, 393 verbal warnings for traffic offenses. 176 arrests were made, including 15 felony arrests. There were 161 complaints assigned to the Detective Bureau to investigate, and officers drove over 167,500 miles last year. Regarding the animal control officer answered 858 calls of service. 53 cats were sheltered, 84 dogs were picked up, 61 dogs were returned to their owners, and 31 dogs were adopted. There were also 61 verbal warnings with 5 violations issued. Our community policing programs last year included DARE, Operation Chill Bicycle Safety, Police Department Facebook page, Police Department Open House, Safety Town, Stranger Danger Fingerprint Program. We also partner with the 33rd District Court with the Sobriety Court Program, the Downriver Guidance Center, the Office of Highway Safety Planning, and the Prosecuting Attorneys Association of Michigan. Your police department is very busy, very active, and Chief Murdoch, we thank you for your comments, and I thank the board for the support that we've had with our new administration and the fine officers that we have. All of the training that we've been allowed to do with the funds that this board has allocated. It makes a difference for the community, and on behalf of the chief, the deputy chief, lieutenant, and the entire department and the police commission, thank you to everyone on the board. Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee has filled its 3 seats on the BPAC that were vacant, and they have also worked with Open Space on the Ferry Road Trail restoration. Underway, they have a maintenance plan which include both paths and bridges that are going to be restored in 2019. The Meridian Bridge across from the school is probably the most significant project. There are going to be portions of that are going to be taken down and reworked. It is in need of condition, but there is a 2-year regular staining and 4-year heavier maintenance on that, and that bridge now needs some work. The BPAC is also going to apply for funding for the Parkway path that would connect the Iron Bell Trail, which goes from Belle Isle all the way up to Iron Mountain and places a little bit further south, hence the name that is there, the Iron Bell Trail. BPRAC is also going to apply for grants to help with further paving. They've successfully brought back the Walk to School Day. They're going to be doing that in 2019. A bicycling skills course is scheduled for 2019 for the young people in the community so that they may learn to ride safely and that we may continue to enjoy safe bicycling on Grosse Ile. They've also worked with CE Rains on a Parkway connector for alternative designs. Again, they want to participate in the Bike to School Day and Walk to School Day, one in May, one in September. Those are going to be announced. I'll have firm dates for you with the next meeting. And we're looking for four ways to make BPAC work with other departments, such as Recreation with Kim, Open Space, DPS, and Public Safety. Third and finally, Open Space Greenways Committee. Commission is publishing updates on a quarterly basis for publications in the Grosse Ile Grand and Trenton Tribune. We have been putting ads, or I should say publications, in the Grosse Ile Grand. The Dump the Junk has been reduced from 2 programs a year to 1 program a year. They wish to work with the Township Board to procure additional open spaces with remaining funds. Last year, 2 parcels were purchased, Wright Woods with 30 acres and the Ferry Lot to provide access to the trail from Ferry to Gage. Trails are reworked on an annual basis. We are working with Code Enforcement Officer to correct encroachment on open space, including 2 areas that have been identified. 1 resident has agreed to correct the issue by the end of April. That's a terrific accomplishment. We also have a liaison from the school system, student Linder Worsley, who is our liaison and has been doing a great job providing information back and forth from the commission to the schools and from the schools to the commission. Also looking forward to working with the township to enforce ordinances and to complete the construction of the Ferry Trail Extension and the Manchester Trail Extension. And you will see an update for the Guide to the Natural Areas of Grosse Ile that will be distributed to all residents shortly. And that concludes my report.
Well done. Thank you. Let's move on to Township Attorney's Report. Mr. Sorty, that's always good news. Mr. Ream, Township Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Mr. Bletcher, you mentioned the Ferry Road Trail. I wanted to report that at our April 8th meeting, we'll be asking the board to consider giving a award subject to detail. Not detail, what's the word I'm looking for? The actual closing on the Ferry Road property that we recently signed a purchase agreement on. The Greenway Open Space Committee put out a bid for constructing that trail, and if you recall, one of the conditions on that trail was the neighbor needed to have some privacy added, and that was part of that plan that was adopted. So we want to be ready right after the property sale closes, weather pending and weather permitted, to move forward on that. It's much more affordable to do the work on woods without leaves than having everything in full bloom and green. It's much more time consuming and costly. So if we can time that properly, we're going to do that sooner than later. So at the next meeting, we'll be asking for the board's support on that project. And last month, I reported that we were reviewing the DPS director candidates. We're setting up interviews for middle of April, and it would assumption would be we'll have a candidate before the board in May for approval. So obviously it's been year-end busy. It's been a long winter, and we're happy to see the sun. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Riem. Let's see, a little electronic wizardry here. As we all know, winter is not yet over, so we want to get our hopes up, but I just want to show some pictures. And
Open the right folder.
I honest to God, I'm trying, and I don't know why. The old adage was confuse the enemy, not yourself. I may have failed that. Well, I'm in the right page. I just got it there. There you go. I cleverly hit it. At the top with the tonight's. So I'll just start it with, let's see, open up. There we go. All right. Again, some parts of the job better than others. This was our newest police officer. It's John Canterbury. We swore him in a week ago today. He is older than 13, and he knows about it. But Chief Warnick, you want to introduce just what we know about Officer Canterbury? Hate to drag you up, but this is the good stuff.
Actually, John started last Monday, and actually this Saturday he made a felony arrest. So it was
welcome to Grosse Township,
did a
safest
great
community
job.
in Michigan.
He is very young. He just looks younger than he really is, but he's doing a great job. He's a couple more weeks, he'll be on his own. He's getting the hang of it. He's been a police officer for a year and a half in Detroit. But I also want to thank the board. It's been a heck of a year, a lot of changes in my life, and learning every day. I want to thank Duncan. I want to thank my deputy chief, Hardin, Lieutenant Pellin. Every day you learn something every day, because I've only been doing this for 3 months. I've been an officer 33 years, but being a chief's completely different. It's different. That's all I could say.
I think they call it the pit.
What's that?
I think they call it the pit. You're now in the pit.
Yeah, okay. But there's one person I really want to thank is Ruth, our secretary. If it wasn't for Ruth, I don't think I would have took this job. She's excellent, helps us, keeps us all in line. She's like our mom, even though she's not that old. But no, I have nothing but great things to say about Ruth. I said the right thing. But that's all I got to say. But John Canterbury's doing a great job, and he's going to be great.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, so let's move on here. Wayne County put out, I got a call from Andy Kondravis at home saying, we're putting some buoys at the bridge. And then he says, Whitney's going to have a press release out in the next day or so. But here's what's going on. Part of the pier is submerged, and we're putting buoys out to delineate it. Well, Whitney's, bless her heart, her press release was nowhere near. It just wasn't very defined. And then the rumors start flying that the bridge is falling down and we can't let boats under it because there's debris in the water. And the reality of the matter is, so I called social media, working for us again. So I called Wayne County Depot, called Bill Bantam. And, of course, he'll take my call anytime if he's not tied up in a meeting or something. So I'm going to explain, okay, here's what's going on. The high water, part of it is submerged, part of the metal rail, and you can kind of see where the rail isn't anymore. It's submerged, and we're putting buoys out just to be proactive on alerting the boaters as to where the rail is under the water, because the water's unusually high. It was unusually high last year, but they put the buoys in this year. So I wanted you to see where the buoys are. This is the north end of the Pier Number 9. Pier Number 9 was put in by the railroad company, Canada Southern Bridge Company, in 1873. It's been there for a long time. Some of the cribbing that held the riprap has deteriorated over time. And anyway, that's what the buoys are. There's no hazard to mariners. You should not be running your boat at a buoy regardless. So don't run your boat at this buoy either, because you're not going to like the outcome. Let's see, another one. Okay, so we're back to good stuff. The Rock CF Marathon on Grosse Ile. First of all, we always get compliments when we have runners or cyclists come to the island. Always get, again, compliments. What a beautiful place to live. Well, it really is, we're trying to keep it that way, but thanks for spreading the word, and I'm always amazed how welcome we bring these visitors in. The motorists usually give a wide berth. Yeah, there were some minor delays. I didn't hear any complaints. So a successful marathon. So we got a hold of, actually Dale got a hold of Miss Schaller this afternoon. She couldn't be here tonight, but she gave us some stats on it. She had 2,300 runners for this marathon from California to Boston, Canada, 21 states total. All around the country came to run in this marathon. We added, you can kind of see it, Jewel Colony, just a little different running route, and Loma Circle this year. New areas to get it up, for one thing, to get it up to the distance that she wanted, and just to see more of the island. They made $180,000 gross. We don't know what that'll net out to, but good outcome. Over 250 volunteers made this happen. She wants to think, let's see, the Grosse Ile High School kids were awesome. That was her term. James Gedris finished number 2 in the marathon. He's a Grosse Ile High School senior, so congratulations to him. And she wanted to make a point of saying thanks to Grosse Ile Police, Grosse Ile Fire, the schools, the airport, and all the residents who made this happen to search for the cure to cystic fibrosis. And for those, we all know it exists as a disease. We all know at the time there's no cure. Emily, won't give away her age, I'll say north of 30. She wasn't, when she was born, first diagnosed, she wasn't expected to make it to her second birthday. So congratulations to her, and congratulations to her efforts on rocking CF. And to all those in the community who helped make it happen, you're all part of that. And now over to, do I have my McAuliffe pictures? Well, they got, I don't know where they ended up. Again, I should know this stuff, but this from Brian Kelly this afternoon. Right now there's a public input process, and I'll give you some dates on that. But during the public input process, and this may assuage a few of the concerns out there, residents expressed concern about sheet flow, i.e. surface runoff, to the river, while MSC, which is the firm that's there to address the property, and a company was created just to do that, assess measures, and it's not Michigan Sugar Company that was out on social media. I can't make this stuff up. It was MSC because in the back of their minds, McLeod Steel Company, okay, that will be the name so we know what we're talking about internally. Assess measures to come into compliance with the Clean Water Act. To address these concerns, EPA worked with MSC on interim measures, including installing a berm along the riverfront. MSC has been working with the City of Trenton, who oversees the Michigan Part 91 authorization program. I was on site today, and the berm and silt fencing is nearly complete. This should give residents confidence sheet flow is not reaching the river. Okay? They put in a berm, silt fencing, sheet flow will not reach the river. Another question I was asked was if redevelopment will interfere with EPA's Superfund cleanup. The settlement agreement addresses this in paragraph 44A through D, which requires a construction plan for development areas, sampling of the area, and approval by EPA. In addition to me and Nabil Fayoumi being assigned to the project, Fred Bartman is assigned specifically to work with MSC on redevelopment. Any questions, please let me know. You can put your questions to me. You can go right to Brian Kelly. He's always very forthright in answering, never have to wait more than usually an hour or so, and he gets back with me with whatever information he has. Nothing's being hidden, nothing's being covered up. This is part of a long process. It's going to Superfund, be listed on Superfund, I think no earlier than the 18th of April as of right now, and that's a moving target. It's going to be a long process. Chief mentioned our Wayne County Department of Homeland Security, the hazardous planning. We're going to be back there Thursday morning with all our buddies, all the police chiefs, fire chiefs, a few elected officials and the Wayne County Homeland Security team and the contractors they have putting this plan together. It is educational. I'm glad we're well ahead of most communities on this. We're an island. We kind of have to have that mindset that we have to be able to take care of ourselves at least for a little while. That hasn't gone away. So that'll be another fun half a day. And then Debbie Dingle will be back in town. She'll be hosting the mayors and supervisors at Downriver Community Conference on Friday. We'll see what's coming down from Washington. We'll have questions for her. Mine will involve also the CDBG, the rethoughts and the funding on that. Trying to keep the EPA here. Thank you to City of Riverview. They have some extra office space. If we can't keep them here in Grosse Ile, Riverview has often offered through resolution open up some office space in their city hall at a nominal cost. There's no excuse for moving those on-scene coordinators out of this area where they're needed to do their jobs. 45 minutes away to Ann Arbor, maybe on a good day. So still working on that, and frustrating, but still working on it. Off to MTA next week, see what's going on. The hot topic is going to be marijuana legislation. If there's more, well, that's what the voters said, and we'll honor the electorate on Grosse Ile while trying to honor the electorate of the state of Michigan. I think we're going, well, I can just reflect on Colorado's reaction to it, and it's just not been. I've had a DEA briefing on what happened in Colorado. Yeah, it seemed like a good idea. I'll just let it go. It seemed like a good idea at the time. That'll conclude my report. Talked a lot tonight. And with that, we'll open it up to public comments. Oh, I've got to move that monitor.
Because I know you didn't mean to forget about We Kayak, about the profile. I know you didn't mean it on purpose. You all talked about all those other groups, but not We Kayak. It was a mistake, I know. When you were talking earlier about the profile, that was a mistake. Okay. That was a mistake. I know you want to have Paris in that picture. Anyways, we had, now, it's a gorgeous thing. I don't know how to turn this thing on. Kathy, that's your problem.
I do.
It's already on.
Up front.
It's on.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we got it.
Anyways, we had a lovely party, and I thought people would like to know that we had people from Troy. That's a long drive. We had people from Farmington. We had really serious people coming to our little party. And let me see if I can get some now.
I'm reading your age on your driver's license there on the other side of it.
It's going to be 68, natural. Anyways, we had a great time, and it was fun. And people were serious. So I'm really looking forward to a new year, our 7th season, and I think it ought to be a really good time. I hope more people come. But they were serious, and that's what got me. A lot of people, like fuss around and everything, like they just want to play. But these people really wanted to know things. We had a couple ladies from Grosse Ile come and say, I want to know where we're going, what kind of safety we have, because one woman almost lost her husband in an accident, and he refuses to go in the water anymore. He'll sit with Tim. But she has great kayaks, and she said, I represent a bunch of women on Grosse Ile who want to do this, but we want to know where we're going and what we're doing, and very serious. So kind of a different flavor this year to our kayaking. We'll still have fun, but, they were really interested in good equipment and doing a little more than just playing around in the water. So it was nice. But everybody's welcome. And, again, we start the day after Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Other comments? Any subject tonight? I don't see any. No. Unoffered. Mr. Budney.
So supported.
Those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you. We'll call the meeting adjourned at 9:36. Thanks for coming, everyone, tonight. Ms. Chang, thank you so much for dropping in to see us.